You all have your copy of Bhagavad Gita? Yeah, I think there are 2 copies there. Hindi, English.
I'll share it. It's okay. You share it. Hindi.
Hare Krishna. So we'll be discussing today from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse number 13 onwards. So before we begin, we'll start with short prayers. Chapter 6, verse 13. So if you open introduction, there the prayers are there. So we can try and recite together. You open introduction page, first page introduction. The prayers are there. We can recite that together. We'll recite the prayers together. Okay? You can try and follow the read. Om Agyante Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Pancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Kadeshata.
6 लोग थे सवार बेटी सब लोग थे
Hare Krishna. So We're discussing from chapter 6, verse number 13 onwards today. By Prabhuji's order, I'm trying to speak. So, Prabhuji is also there. So I request Prabhuji to please add in between and share. So, verse number 13. हिंदी में भी बोलेंगे थोड़ा. Okay. तो पिछली बार आई थिंक प्रभुजी ने 11वां और 12वां श्लोक लिया था. 10, 11, 12. तो एनीवन रिमेंबर्स और कोई पॉइंट्स कुछ जो पिछले हफ्ते डिस्कस किए गए थे? एनी पॉइंट्स यू ऑल रिमेंबर? Anyone online? Any points that were discussed last week? Any one point? Yes.
Karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and bhakti yoga was explained.
Okay. Karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and bhakti yoga. Right. So that is the yoga ladder. So gradually one can move up, but the ultimate goal of any yoga process is bhakti yoga. So okay. Any other points or कोई point जो discuss किए गए थे? Yukta vairagya. Okay. Do everything for Krishna. So dedicate everything to Krishna. Everything for Krishna. Okay.
Then lifespan was discussed. Satya yoga, Treta yoga, Dwapar yoga, and Kali yoga.
Lifespan was discussed कि सतयुग में कितनी आयु होती थी लोगों की?
1728.
Oh, 1728. No, सतयुग was much more. सतयुग में कितना था लाइफ स्पैन? 1 लाख. 1 lakh years. 1 lakh years.
Then Treta yoga, 1 lakh.
Reduced by 90% in every yoga.
Right. So Treta Yuga, 10,000 years.
10,000, then 1,000. Now it's almost.
That is the duration of Treta Yuga. Lifespan of a person in Treta Yuga was 10,000 years, but duration is 12 lakh. Yes. So Kali Yuga is 4,32,000 years. Dwapar Yuga is 2 times of that, 8 lakh. Then Treta Yuga is 3 times of that, and Satyuga is 4 times. Okay. So, okay. Oh, and what else about Yukta Vairagya? You go to Vamshi, the windows there.
And Kali yoga is ocean of thoughts.
Kali Yuga is ocean of thoughts. Kali Yuga is there where there is gold. He was given that place. Okay.
Principles, no, there people are not following principles.
People are not following principles in Kali Yuga. Someone recently asked me, why did Lord Ram follow his father's order of going to the forest? Why did he follow Dashrath Maharaj? Why did Dashrath Maharaj follow his wife when she asked him to ask Ram to go? I said he had given a vow, like a word. People in those ages would follow their word. They would, if they said something, they would do it. Specifically Kshatriyas. Unlike in today's age, we may make a promise, कुछ बोलेंगे और कुछ और ही करेंगे. But तभी ऐसे लोग नहीं होते थे. So people were following principles at that time. Now there is no principle followed. आज के age में. Okay. Any other points?
One last one.
Yes.
Kirtan will give same result over the year to go back to God.
Sorry?
Kirtan will give the same results
Kirtan will give the same results
to go back to
Godhead. Just like in the previous ages, there were different processes. Satyug में हम क्या करते थे? ध्यान, meditation. Then Treta Yuga was yagyas. Dwapar Yuga was temple worship, deity worship. And Kali Yuga, the same result is obtained by chanting, kirtan, right? Sankirtan. Okay. Thank you for so many wonderful points you all remembered. Yukta Vairagya, would you like to add more? You said something. So doing something for Krishna. Why is it called Vairagya? Vairagya means giving up, na? Like not doing. So what is?
Reject the unwords.
Sorry? Okay. Okay.
Providing service to him for everything that you do.
Hmm.
Even the way you office, the way you work, you train yourself from doing things that takes you away from Krishna.
Hmm.
So sitting with people, don't gossip, talk about Krishna.
Okay. Keep Krishna in center. That is very nice. बहुत अच्छा example है. ये हम spreadsheet भी बना रहे हैं, then do it for Krishna. So if some other spiritualist is there, वो जो वैराग का पालन करते हैं, तो वो लैपटॉप उठा के फेंक देंगे, बैग उठा के फेंक देंगे, सब कुछ फेंक देंगे, बोलेंगे वैराग्य, आई एम रिनाउंस्ड, आई हैव नो डिजायर, मुझे इस सब की जरूरत नहीं है. लैपटॉप मतलब माया. It is illusion to use my laptop or to use a mobile phone. So they will renounce everything, सब कुछ छोड़ देंगे. So there is no question of spreadsheet because there is no laptop. But if you see devotees, then they are using technology. We are using laptop now. We can use microphone. We can use anything. We have big palatial temple. Live darshan is going on. Internet is being used to broadcast live darshan of Radharaj Bihari. So all the material elements are used, but वो किसके लिए use हो रहे हैं? कृष्णा के लिए. It's not for our own sake. So because it's not for our own sake, हमारे लिए नहीं है, इसलिए वो वैराग्य है. हमारे लिए होता तो वैराग्य नहीं होता. अगर मैं स्प्रेडशीट बना रहा हूँ मेरा प्रॉफिट लॉस देखने के लिए और मेरा सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन के लिए, तो फिर वो attraction for material thing है. Then that is not vairagya. But if the same thing I'm using for Krishna, then that is yukta vairagya. Thank you. So it is very important, vital point, because sometimes people will say, "Yare devotee hai, sadhu का कपड़ा पहना है, आईफोन लेके घूमते हैं या एप्पल लैपटॉप लेके घूमते हैं, कैसे साधु है?" So Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master Bhakti Sansari Thakur, वो पहले ऐसे आचार्य थे जो गाड़ी में ट्रैवल किया जिन्होंने, नहीं तो उसके पहले गाड़ी में भी ट्रैवल नहीं किया जाता था. सन्यासी जो थे वो गाड़ी में ट्रैवल नहीं करते थे. और प्रभुपाद जी ने फिर फ्लाइट में ट्रैवल किया. तो अगर नहीं करते अगर फ्लाइट में ट्रैवल, सो हाउ विल द पीपल ऑफ द वर्ल्ड बी डिलीवर्ड इफ ही डिड नॉट एक्चुअली गो? So Prabhupada was giving lecture once and he was saying that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prediction is there what? That in every town and village, my holy name will be heard, sung. कैसे होगा if no one goes there? So Prabhupada was explaining कि ये अगर फैलना है तो कैसे होगा? That is why Prabhupada went on the instruction of his guru. So everything is used, but it's used for Krishna's service. Okay, so thank you for sharing so many nice points. So we'll continue with today's verses. I'll just share it on the screen for those who are online. Balmukund Prabhu, you have your hand up. Any questions? Anything to share?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Suji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, one of the points we discussed last time also was not to go to the extreme of any one particular yoga. Like there is so much emphasis. Some people just emphasize on karma yoga only. Some emphasize on dhyana yoga only. And we discussed the various yugas and different emphasis on different yugas. But they were not entirely true. In fact, all these four major yogas were practiced all the time in the history. And the reason they are practiced all the time is because they are complementary to each other. So Bhakti Yoga without the knowledge that we have to do it for Krishna. Dhyan Yoga without the knowledge that we have to do it for Krishna. Bhakti Yoga is essential element in it. But that doesn't mean that we should forget Karma Yoga, we should forget Jnana Yoga, we should forget Dhyan Yoga. They should be integrated within it. And different people have different entry points to the ultimate realization. Some have gone through meditative processes, some have gone through scriptural readings, some have gone through just the activities related to their own professional work.
Prabhuji's point
But
is that everything is complementary. So things should not be seen in isolation. But you made one point, Prabhuji, that for Bhakti Yoga also we need help of other yogas. Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
So was this
Because the other things, for example, when you are doing meditation, like we are discussing 6th chapter at the moment. So when you are doing meditation, it increases your focus. The science today tells us that meditation relieves your stress and increases your concentration. So, whatever activities we undertake,
so Prabhuji is here,
we get more
Vijayamada Prabhu.
concentration and therefore more effective.
Prabhuji is here, Vijayamada Prabhu.
Sorry, somebody.
Yeah, Vijayamada Prabhu is here, so he is just sharing. You can sit here.
Hare Krishna. Other things may help. Other things may be helpful, but it is not dependent. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Bhakti is independent. Bhakti is independent. It does not depend on karma, jnana, or any kind of ashtanga yoga. It doesn't depend. You may do everything perfectly. Bhakti Devi may choose not to appear in your heart. And you may do nothing. Bhakti Devi may choose to appear in your heart. So Bhakti Devi is independent completely. It's not that only if you do Ashtanga Yoga or meditation, then Bhakti Devi will appear. No. So the other things are supportive. They may help, right? They may help, but it's not necessary to have them. Bhakti is independent of all these things. So if you meditate and that helps you sit in one single pose and chant your 16 rounds together in 2 hours, that's great. That's fantastic. But at the same time, if somebody is not into yoga practice, somebody simply sits and chants, Bhakti Devi will bless him as well.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, you can be here. So, yes, that is how it is. So, Bhakti is so powerful. Actually, in some of the verses we will be discussing today, we will see the difference also in the different yogic processes and how Bhakti Yoga is actually having an edge over the other processes. So, we'll start with today's discussion and many more things will come up.
So, sorry, one small point. So, Bhakti Yoga, like we discussed last time, is a superset which includes the other subsets. If you're practicing Bhakti Yoga nicely as per the scriptures, you actually don't need to do other things because it's automatically included.
Okay, so we'll start with today's verses, verse number 13 and 14. So we'll recite the verse. Samam kaya shirogrivam
Samam kaya shirogrivam
dharayan nachalam stiraha
dharayam achalan stiraha
sampreksha nasikagram swam
sampreksha nasikagram
dishasyanavalokayan
dishasyanavalokayan
prashantatma vigatabhir
prashantatma
विगतभीर
brahmachari vrate stitaha
brahmachari
manah samyamya machitto
mana samyam
मच्चित्तो
युक्त आसित मत्परः.
युक्त आसितमत्परः.
Someone like to recite? Yeah, yes.
समं काय शिरोग्रीवं
समं काय शिरोग्रीवं
धारयन्नाचलं स्थिरः
धारयन्नचलं स्थिरः
सम्प्रेक्ष्य नासिकाग्रं
संप्रेक्ष्य नासिकाग्रं स्वं
दिशं श्वानवलोकयन्
दिशश्चानवलोकयन्
प्रशान्तात्मा विगतभिः
प्रशान्तात्मा विगतभिः
ब्रह्मचारी गते स्थितः
ब्रह्मचारी व्रते स्थितः
मनः संयम्य मच्चित्तो
मनः संयम्य मच्चित्तो युक्त आसित मत्परः. Someone read the translation. Yes, yes, please.
One should hold one's body, neck and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life.
Yes. So in this verse, Lord Krishna is saying that he's describing this process of how one can perform Dhyan Yoga. And the verse says that one has to sit very upright, erect, straight line, stare steadily at the tip of the nose, unagitated in mind. The mind should be completely calm, unagitated, completely free from sex life. And then one like that should meditate upon me within the heart. Make me the ultimate goal of life. So this is the description of how Dhyan Yoga is to be performed. So I'm sure Prabhuji would have described in the last few weeks. So one has to go to a secluded place. Some of the previous verses said that. So one has to go to a secluded place like in a forest. Sit not very high. Yeah, kusha grass, deer skin, and there is cotton like that. And then one has to be completely free from fear. And now imagine you are in a jungle. Okay. You are sitting on an elevated platform and you have to now meditate on the tip of your nose. Like focus there. Eyes should not be completely shut. Eyes should be half open and should be focusing on the tip of the nose. And you cannot be fearful कि अरे कोई जानवर आके खा जाएगा मुझे. You have to be free from fear of any of that sense. And then free of sex life. So if one is able to do all of this, what actually it means is कि हमारा mind senses जो है वो काबू में है, अभी वश में हमारे. That is why the mind is unagitated, like it says here. So the mind unagitated, it is peaceful, it is not getting diverted here and there. So अभी ऐसे mind के साथ हम क्या कर सकते हैं? We can actually meditate on the Lord within the heart. So that is very important. So Prabhupada was saying that nowadays yoga means that you go perform some exercise, asanas, for what? What is the goal? For your health. Health को अच्छा करने के लिए. In the next verse, we will see what actually happens for a person who is performing Dhyan Yoga. So यहाँ पे लिखा है, one should meditate upon me. Krishna is very clearly saying, meditate upon me within the heart. Yoga में ये करना है. Dhyan Yoga means one has to meditate on Krishna within the heart. And that he'll be able to do if his mind is not agitated. अगर mind agitated है, अभी सोच रहा है कि मेरे काम वाली बाइक क्यों नहीं आई घर पे कल, या कुछ भी और, मेरा फोन क्यों नहीं बज रहा है, किसी का मैसेज आने वाला है. So if the mind is completely disturbed like this, so Prabhupada was saying that if you are actually going to a yoga studio practicing yoga and then in the night you are enjoying sex, it is bogus. That is not yoga, because you cannot have yoga like this. Yoga means you have to have control over your mind and senses. Then you will be able to focus your mind completely on Krishna, meditate on Krishna. हम कृष्णा पर ध्यान कर पाएंगे. लेकिन अगर वो ध्यान नहीं है तो फिर it's impossible that you are, then so-called yoga is only bogus. So yoga means completely controlling the mind and senses. Yoga indriya samyamya. It means कि हमारे जो mind है, इंद्रिया है, उसको कंट्रोल में, वश में लाना है. अगर वो वश में नहीं है तो we cannot focus. It's simple. So in the purport, Prabhupada explains very deeply some of these points. So first he says The goal of life is to know Krishna, who is situated within the heart as Paramatma, the four-handed Vishnu form. The yoga process is practiced in order to discover and see this localized form of Vishnu and not for any other purpose. Very clear. Yoga का purpose क्या है? To see Paramatma within the heart. और कोई purpose नहीं है yoga का. But this, in modern day, people do not know what is yoga meant for. Very clearly, Krishna is saying, meditate upon me after doing all of this. The localized Vishnu Murti is a plenary representation of Krishna dwelling within one's heart. One who has no program to realize this Vishnu Murti is uselessly engaged in mock yoga practice and is certainly wasting his time. तो जिसका ये गोल नहीं है कि मुझे भगवान के ऊपर मेडिटेट करना है, तो वो खाली मॉक योगा है, मतलब वो दिखावे का है और वो अपना टाइम वेस्ट कर रहा है और कुछ नहीं. Very strong words Prabhupada is using here. So Krishna is the ultimate goal of life. The Vishnu Murti situated in one's heart is the object of yoga practice. To realize this Vishnu Murti within the heart, one has to observe complete abstinence from sex life. Therefore, one has to leave home and live alone in a secluded place, remaining seated as mentioned above. One cannot enjoy sex life daily at home or elsewhere and attend a so-called yoga class and then become a yogi. आजकल थोड़ा फैशनेबल भी हो गया है, ऐसे योगा मैट लेके घूमते हैं सब लोग और जाते योगा परफॉर्म करते हैं ना. So it's become kind of like a fashion also. But we know very clearly now from this purport and from the verse what is the goal of yoga and what all rules you need to follow if you actually want to perform yoga and actually attain the goal of yoga. So this is not to undermine and say that yoga is not good for us in terms of taking care of our health. We may do that, but actual yoga means to meditate on the Lord. One has to practice controlling the mind and avoiding all kinds of sense gratification, of which sex life is the chief. In the rules of celibacy written by the great sage Yajnavalkya, it is said, Karmana manasa vacha sarvavasthashu sarvada sarvatra maithuna tyago brahmacharyam prachaksate. The vow of brahmacharya is meant to help one completely abstain from sex indulgence in work, words, and mind, at all times, under all circumstances, and in all places. No one can perform correct yoga practice through sex indulgence. Brahmacharya is taught, therefore, from childhood when one has no knowledge of sex life. Children at the age of 5 are sent to Gurukul or the place of spiritual master, and master trains the young boys in the strict discipline of becoming brahmacharis. Without such practice, no one can make advancement in any yoga, whether it is dhyana, jnana, or bhakti. So, बहुत important point है. So, because in today's age, the environment is completely polluted. Right? And nowhere it is taught to practice celibacy or brahmacharya. So basically पूरा उल्टा होता है आजकल के environment में. So you are taught to freely enjoy your senses, and that is considered to be the success of life. जितना आप इंद्र तृप्ति कर सकते हो, उतना आप successful हो life में. तो इंद्र तृप्ति कितने अलग अलग फॉर्म्स में आता है और उसके लिए इतने सारे एडवर्टाइजमेंट्स होते हैं, उसके लिए इतना सारा मार्केटिंग होता है. क्यों? ताकि हम अपने इंद्रियों को तृप्त कर सके. We can enjoy sense gratification, and that becomes the goal of life. Whereas in spiritual life, it is completely opposite. There is no indriya tripti, no sense gratification. So that is very important. So in previous age, a student was sent to Gurukul where he was trained in these principles from the very beginning, and because he was trained, then he would be able to control himself like that. But now such training is not there in today's day and age. Rather, in schools, it is, Prabhupada would say, it is like a spiritual slaughterhouse. Spiritual, nahi, sorry. Modern slaughterhouse. So these educational institutes are like slaughterhouses, which means they kill the spiritual culture of a person. So anyone who's studying in these institutes, it actually kills their spiritual life. And this is a fact. If you see in this modern day schooling, that is exactly what happens, because boys and girls are very freely able to mix with each other, and they have relationships at very young age. As young as 7th, 8th grade, they start having relationships, and so there is no question of following all these principles. And because of that, their mind is very much disturbed all the time, agitated. It's very natural, right? Because they are not taught to control and keep away from these things. And because that is there, you cannot focus. So if one actually practices brahmacharya, then his determination becomes very, very strong to practice anything. And Srila Prabhupada in the lecture, he gives the example of Mahatma Gandhi. He says that जब महात्मा गांधी पूरा वर्ल्ड में ब्रिटिश ने कॉन्कर कर रखा था और उनको हराना बहुत मुश्किल था, तो अगर आप उनसे लड़ने निकलोगे वायलेंस के साथ, it is not possible because they were very powerful. British was very powerful military wise, so they could conquer. But Mahatma Gandhi, one person, he said, no, I will drive away British by non-violence. So Prabhupada says that from the age of 36, he was practicing brahmacharya, Mahatma Gandhi. And because of that, he had such strong determination that he thought that I will drive away the Britishers from here. So strong determination to practice anything, what to speak of spiritual life, is, you get by actually by practicing brahmacharya or celibacy. So without that, then our determination to practice anything will become loose. It will become weakened. We will not be able to practice it, with strongly, very firmly. So very important this was. Then Prabhupada explains that one who, however, follows the rules and regulations of married life, having a sexual relationship only with his wife, and that also under regulation, is called a brahmachari. Such a restrained householder brahmachari may be accepted in the bhakti school, but the Gyan and Dhyan school do not even admit householder brahmacharis. माता जी कुछ पूछना? ओके, तो यहाँ पे लिख रहे हैं प्रभा जी कि जो भक्ति योग में तो हाउस होल्डर ब्रह्मचारी पॉसिबल है, लेकिन अगर आप ध्यान योग या ज्ञान योग फॉलो कर रहे हैं तो वहाँ पे हाउस होल्डर के लिए कोई जगह ही नहीं है, आपको सब कुछ छोड़ के ही आना पड़ेगा. बट इन भक्ति योगा इट इज पॉसिबल दैट यू कैन बिकम अ गृहस्थ, have except one wife, and still be called a brahmachari if that relationship is based on Krishna conscious principles and there is regulation there. Then you are still accepted as a brahmachari in bhakti yoga. अभी कोई पूछेगा ऐसे क्यों? Why? Then that next line Prabhupada explains. Such a restrained householder brahmachari may be accepted in the bhakti school, but the Gyan and Dhyan schools do not even admit householder brahmacharis. They require complete abstinence without compromise. In the bhakti school, a householder brahmachari is allowed control sex life because the cult of bhakti yoga is so powerful that one automatically loses sexual attraction being engaged in the superior service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, 2.59, Vishya vinivartante niraharasya tehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param dristva nivartate. So, ऐसे कैसे possible हो सकता है? Because bhakti yoga is so much higher, so much powerful, and there is so much strength in that you will automatically lose attraction for any sense gratification. So therefore in bhakti yoga still that is allowed, because bhakti yoga is so powerful, it can take you out of anything and you will completely lose attraction for any sense gratification. तो ये भक्ति योग में possible है. तो ऐसे हमारे एक आचार्य थे यमुनाचार्य, तो वो भी ऐसी बताते एक श्लोक में, वो कहते हैं तदवधि बतन, what is that verse? तदवधि मम चेत कृष्ण पदार विंदे नव नव रस धामनि उदयतम रंतमाश्रित यदवधि बत नारी संग में स्मरे माने भवती मुख विकार शुष्टु निष्टिवनम च. तो कहते हैं कि जब से मैंने भक्ति योग का पालन करना चालू किया, आई एम एक्सपीरियंसिंग न्यूअर एंड न्यूअर मेलोस. तो हर बार मुझे कुछ नया नया एक्सपीरियंस होता है, कुछ नया नया आनंद अनुभव होता है भक्ति योग के पालन करने से. जब से मेरा ऐसे शुरू हुआ है अनुभव करना, whenever the thought of sex comes to my mind, I spit at that thought, he says. So this is the extent to which one can develop such high good taste that you will have complete distaste for sense gratification. So he's saying that I spit at the thought of it. So such is the power in the process of bhakti yoga, because when one is actually developing love for Krishna, then lust will automatically be removed from the heart. That same love for Krishna, when we come to material world, it actually becomes transformed into lust. So lust for sense objects. But when that love is awakened within the heart, then automatically there will be no more attraction for any sense gratification. So bhakti yoga is so powerful. But one has to develop that higher taste. So जो दूसरे योगा प्रोसेसेस है वहां पे हम देखते हैं, आगे प्रभु जी भी एक्सप्लेन करते हैं कि इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू कंट्रोल योरसेल्फ, control your mind, control your senses, because that higher taste is not there. तो अगर आप और कोई योगा का पालन कर रहे हो तो बहुत मुश्किल है अपने आप को सस्टेन कर पाना वो लेवल पे, क्योंकि अट्रैक्शन बहुत स्ट्रांग रहता है टुवर्ड्स सेंस ऑब्जेक्ट्स। तो जैसे हम देखते हैं एग्जाम्पल स्क्रिप्चर्स में भी आते हैं। जैसे एक एग्जाम्पल है शौबरी मुनि का। शौबरी मुनि वो पानी में मेडिटेट कर रहे थे और पानी में थे, अंडर वाटर, डीप अंडर वाटर ही इज डूइंग मेडिटेशन। बट वहां पे उन्होंने क्या देखा, दो फिशेस है वो मेट कर रहे हैं। जस्ट बाय सीइंग दैट हिज माइंड गॉट एजिटेटेड, सो मच सो दैट वो पानी के बाहर आ गए। और फिर एक राजा थे, उनको बोला कि आपकी बेटी से मुझे शादी करनी है। और राजा की 50 बेटियां थी। शौबरी मुनि तो मुनि थे, वो पूरा जटा था और पूरा वस्त्र कुछ भी ठीक नहीं था और दिखने में एकदम डरावने जैसे थे। तो कौन शादी करेगा? तो फिर राजा ने बोला कि ठीक है, जो भी मेरी बेटी आपसे शादी करना चाहिए आप ले लो। उन्होंने इनडायरेक्टली बोल दिया ऐसा, क्योंकि कोई भी एक्सेप्ट करेगा ही नहीं उनको। तो शौबरी मुनि समझ गए कि मुझे कोई एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेगा, तो उन्हें अपने शक्ति के द्वारा अपने आप को एकदम नवयुवक, एकदम जवान लड़के के जरिए से बना दिया। और जब ये ऐसे बना दिया तो 50 की 50 जो बेटियां थी सबने उनसे शादी किया। तो फिर बहुत साल वो ऐसे उनके साथ रहे और बहुत सालों के बाद उनको, उनकी इतनी सारी पत्नियां थी, बच्चे थे। फिर उनको एक दिन ऐसे चमका दिमाग में। मैं पानी में बैठा था मैं उधर मेडिटेशन कर रहा था कि क्या हो गया तो ये होता है। सो व्हेन वी आर एक्चुअली प्रैक्टिसिंग योगा, it becomes very difficult to control one mind and senses because attraction for sense object is very very strong और वो जाता नहीं है इतना इजीली। बट भक्ति योगा का प्रोसेस जो है, वहीं पे हम दूसरा एग्जांपल देखते हैं हरिदास ठाकुर का। तो हरिदास ठाकुर जी थे, वो बहुत उच्च कोटि के भक्त थे, प्योर डिवोटी। सो ही वाज चैंटिंग 3 लाख नेम्स अ डे, 3 लाख नाम रोज। दैट इज इक्विवेलेंट टू 192 राउंड्स। हम 16 माला करते 2 घंटा लगता है, 192 राउंड मीन्स ऑलमोस्ट पूरा दिन चैंटिंग करते। तो वो खाते भी नहीं थे जब तक चैंटिंग नहीं कंप्लीट करते थे। तो सच वाज द डिटर्मिनेशन। तो एक दिन फिर, क्योंकि वो मुस्लिम फैमिली में बॉर्न थे, तो जो वहाँ के राजा थे वो मुस्लिम थे, तो उनको अच्छा नहीं लग रहा था कि ये मुस्लिम होकर के हरिनाम कर रहे हैं, क्यों कर रहे हैं, बंद कराना था उनको। तो उनको डिस्टर्ब करना था, तो उन्होंने क्या सोचा कि एक वैश्य को भेजता हूँ मैं इनके पास रात को, तो उनको डिस्टर्ब कर देंगे। तो वैश्य को भेजा भी उन्होंने। तो हरिदास ठाकुर तो चैंटिंग कर रहे थे तुलसी के सामने। तो वैश्य ने बोला कि देखो आप इतने जवान हो, अच्छी रात है, तो हम साथ में एंजॉय कर सकते हैं। लेकिन फिर उन्होंने बोला लेकिन मेरा नियम है कि मैं 3 लाख नाम जप करता हूँ रोज, तो आप इधर बैठ जाओ, जब मेरा खत्म होगा तभी मैं आपका सब जो भी है आपका डिजायर पूरा करूंगा। तो चैंटिंग उनका खत्म होना ही नहीं था क्योंकि वो 3 लाख नाम जप करते। तो वैश्या चली गई। फिर वो सोचा कि अगले दिन वापस से आती हूँ, तो वापस आई वो। फिर हरिदास ठाकुर को वापस से वो चैंटिंग कर रहे थे। मैं बोला कि कल मैं को आपने निराश किया, अभी आज मैं वापस आई। बोला हाँ, लेकिन मेरा नियम है कि 3 लाख नाम रोज जप करना है मुझे। तो फिर वो बैठ गई, तो वो भी साथ में जप सुनने लगी और करने भी लगी। फिर पूरा दिन रात ऐसे ही चला गया, फिर वो चले गए। तो वो राजा बोले थे अरे क्या हो रहा है? बोले नहीं नहीं, आज तो जरूर मैं की तपस्या और सब कुछ भक्ति सब भंग कर दूंगी। तो तीसरे दिन वापस से आई। वापस से फिर उनको, हरिदास ठाकुर वहां बैठे थे और वो चैंटिंग कर रहे थे। तो 3 दिन के बाद वो वैश्या जो थी वो पूरा ट्रांसफॉर्म हो गई और वो खुद डिवोटी बन गए। तो completely devoted, and she took initiation from Haridas Thakur and she became a great devotee herself. So such is the power of Bhakti Yoga.
She also started chanting.
She also started chanting 3 lakh names a day. So you say. So this is the power of Bhakti Yoga. So one actually gets taste for Krishna consciousness, for Bhakti. We should hanker for such taste. We should look कि ये मुझे कभी ऐसे स्वाद आएगा हरिनाम करने में, चैंटिंग करने में, कि जब भी मैं फ्री बैठा हूँ कि मुझे बस चैंटिंग करना है. Have we developed that taste? We should really look for such taste. because there is so much taste, there is nectar. In the उपदेशामृत ऐसे बताया जाता है कि जो भगवान के नाम है वो एकदम मीठे हैं, बट क्योंकि वी आर फिल्ड विद इग्नोरेंस, अविद्या, तो हम जब भी चैंटिंग कर रहे हैं तो हम में ये टेस्ट नहीं आ रहा है. इट इज स्वीट लाइक शुगर कैंडी. सबको अच्छा लगता है मीठा कुछ खाना, शुगर कैंडी दे दो बहुत अच्छा लगेगा खाने के लिए. तो हरिनाम जो है वो एक्चुअली इतना मीठा है, लेकिन वो हमें हमारा उनके लिए उसके लिए टेस्ट नहीं है. तो टेस्ट हम कैसे डेवलप करेंगे? और चैंटिंग करने से. तो जितना हम चैंटिंग करेंगे उतना हमारा जो हृदय में अनर्थ है वो सब मिटेंगे, और फिर वील डेवलप मोर एंड मोर टेस्ट फॉर चैंटिंग होली नेम्स. सो दिस शुड बी आवर मोटिव गोल, कि हाउ वी कैन एक्चुअली डेवलप दिस टेस्ट, हाउ वी कैन डेवलप टेस्ट फॉर हियरिंग. कहाँ पर भी कृष्णा कथा हो रही है तो फिर कैसे हम जाए वहां पे विदाउट मिसिंग दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी टू हियर द ग्लोरीज ऑफ द लॉर्ड, टू हियर द ग्लोरीज की, उनकी एक्टिविटीज के बारे में, उनका गुणगान सुनने के लिए, हरिनाम कीर्तन करने के लिए. वी शुड हैव टेस्ट. सो वी शुड नेवर मिस दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी. जब भी हमें मिलता है सुनने का, हरिनाम में जाने का, सेवा करने का. सो व्हेन वी डू दिस देन ऑटोमेटिकली आवर हार्ट विल बी प्यूरिफाइड. धीरे धीरे करके वो जो मैल है वो प्यूरिफाई हो जाएगी, और उसके बाद हमारे लिए टेस्ट जो है भक्ति के लिए और भी बढ़ेगा. तो जब ये टेस्ट बढ़ेगा देन ऑटोमेटिकली वील also want to do more and more of Krishna consciousness, and then automatically this taste for sense gratification will happen. तो हमें बहुत ज्यादा प्रयास नहीं करना पड़ेगा किसी भी सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन से बचने के लिए. ऑटोमेटिकली इट विल हैपन. बट जो दूसरे प्रोसेस है योगा के वो बहुत मैकेनिकल है. नहीं देखो मत करो, अपने आप को कंट्रोल करने का बहुत प्रयास होता है, बट मैकेनिकली, है ना. तो मैकेनिकली आप कंट्रोल तो कर लोगे, बट फिर भी अंदर बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग डिजायर है. दैट इज व्हाई यू फेल देन. But in Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga, this is the speciality. Because you develop taste for Krishna consciousness, automatically there is this taste for sense gratification. So we'll read little more, this last few lines. You have a question? Yes.
Actually, as you said, Mahatma Gandhi started brahmachari from the age of 36, right? So he got married.
Yes.
So how he
So from that point, at least he did practiced it.
okay. Still it is considered brahmachari.
So it is considered brahmachari means from that point onwards, at least he practiced celibacy, like that. So even that has effect. So if you are practicing that strongly, in for few years, you will see the difference. You will be more determined, like that. So the determination, strong determination comes by practice. So like when Prabhupada went to the West, तो वहाँ पे तो सब हिप्पीज थे, और हिप्पी जो थे वो सब नियम को तोड़ते थे. Intoxication, gambling, illicit sex. But we can see that Prabhupada recruited from this hippies, and he converted them into great exalted Vaishnavas. So much so now they are worshipable for us, and many of them are sannyasis. So how is it possible? So it is possible by developing taste, higher taste, and then now at least from that point onwards, it's not that हमारा कोई history नहीं है, ये तो ये जन्म का है, उसके पहले भी पता नहीं कितने जन्म लिए और पता नहीं कितने हमने पाप में कार्य किए होंगे. So there is a huge history, and that is why that internally that proclivity, that desire for sense enjoyment is there. मैं रिसेंटली पढ़ रहा था, प्रभुपाद जी बोल रहे थे कि हम देखते बच्चे जो होते हैं छोटे, ऐसे भी बच्चे हैं आए हैं यहाँ पे, तो बहुत इनोसेंट होते हैं और उनके अंदर कुछ ऐसे गलत भावना होती नहीं है, नॉर्मली इनोसेंट होते हैं. तो प्रभुपाद जी बोल रहे थे इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि वो बहुत अच्छे प्योर डिवोटी है, क्योंकि प्योर डिवोटी में भी ऐसे गुण होते हैं कि वो इनोसेंट होते हैं और उनमें कुछ बुरी आदतें या बुरी डिजायर्स नहीं होते. तो ऐसा नहीं कि वो बच्चे जो हैं वो एडवांस डिवोटीज है इसलिए वो लोग ऐसे हैं, ऐसा नहीं है. समय के साथ जैसे वो ग्रो होंगे, ऑटोमेटिकली उनका पास्ट लाइफ से उनके अंदर जितने भी सारे डिजायर्स है, मटेरियल डिजायर्स, वो सब वो फ्रुक्टिफाई होंगे विद टाइम. So which means from our past lives also so many desires are there, with time that will again come up, it will fructify, and then you will see those changes in the child, as he's growing, how he has certain inclination and certain desires. So where is it coming from? It's coming from past lives. So basically bhakti yoga means you have to kill the desires at the root. So हम abstain तो कर रहे हैं, but if in the heart only there are no more desires, they are completely washed away. So that can happen. तो जैसे हम भक्ति योगा प्रैक्टिस करते हैं तो इतने सारे हमारे जो मटेरियल डिजायर्स है वो सब कुछ एकदम छोटे से होकर के खत्म हो जाते हैं. It is burnt literally. So therefore, of course, Prabhupada just was giving material example of Mahatma Gandhi just to explain the point of importance of brahmacharya. So not just for spiritual practice, but material life also, determination, you can get very strong determination just by practicing brahmacharya. Mahatma Gandhi was not doing any spiritual activity by driving away Britishers. That is a material thing only. But the determination, Prabhupada just gave that example for that purpose. So much more is it essential for practicing any spiritual life, any spiritual practice for that matter, that we must follow these principles. Yeah, so you will see many examples of people who have actually truly practiced, renounced order or brahmacharya, and they are able to do great things because they are determined like that. Baba Ramdev, yes. Narendra Modi. Yes. So you will see that their lives are also very much busy and they're able to do big things, right? So practicing these principles, it surely makes a huge difference. But in today's society, it is so polluted that there is no possibility of any good practice of spiritual life. Because the mind is so much agitated because of following sinful practices in sinful life.
Prabhuji, I have a question here.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Like I go as a professor in architecture college, and these young children are really give good respect and all everything, but they are disturbed by multiple relationships and all. They are innocent, but then that affects their studies also. So, like, and unknowingly, you also sometimes get involved. And you feel bad for you feel like they are your own children, and you feel bad for them. So how to guide them, or
Yes.
how to keep myself away from their personal lives, I would say.
Okay. There are two things. One is, so your question is in two parts. One is how to guide them and how to ourselves not get disturbed by whatever they share with us, and that may affect our consciousness also. So,
Yeah.
so first is that firstly we have to protect ourselves. So our consciousness we need to protect. That is the most important thing, because unless we protect ourselves, it is not possible to help anyone else. So his hand is tied to the chair behind, he cannot untie another person, right? So similarly, if we are ourselves very much protected by strongly practicing Krishna consciousness and following all these principles like Prabhupada has explained here, then we'll be able to help other people also. But for that, then we should be very strongly fixed up in the principles, very strongly fixed up in these principles. So when we know these principles and we are strongly practicing it, then we'll be able to help other people also and guide them properly, right? So today's situation is, like I said, and you were also saying, so in colleges or schools, it's very, very bad. And yes, that is true. People have multiple relationships. They do not know what to do. One boy likes another girl likes the boy, and they also do not want to be in relationship, or they want to be in relationship. And there are so many such problems that happen at a very young age. So even as young as 11, 12 years, 13 years. So it's a big problem. But if we go and directly tell them, read this, verse, or, read that, such things are prohibited, not to be done, they may not be able to understand or even relate to it. Because even if they momentarily for some time understand and, understand what you are saying to them, their environment is so polluted, their friends, the TV, media, internet, it is also polluted. Everything is going like brainwashing them, making them think that sense gratification is the ultimate goal of life. And that age, teenage specifically, is itself, a very difficult age. So gradually one has to, cultivate, all these principles in them. So some things that you can do is give them some exposure to spiritual life. How It could be through books. You can give them some Prabhupada books. There are many small, wonderful Prabhupada books that are there. You can give them that. You can give them prasad if that's possible. So whenever you come to temple, carry some prasad, give to them. Tell them that I had gone to temple, this prasad. That will also purify their consciousness. If possible, bring them to temple for festivals. Like just now, Sita Navami is coming. On Tuesday, there is Sita Navami, and there is very beautiful boat festival. So when one comes in the atmosphere of the temple and sees that, such wonderful, festival is going on, there is such beautiful kirtan, and you actually, develop that sense of happiness, and that you're looking for so many lifetimes when you are actually in this atmosphere in the temple. Then automatically you won't have to tell them, give up these sinful things. Gradually, by repeated and slow, gradual, exposure and their increase in their sukruti, they will be able to give it up, right? So, of course, some things are very detrimental, and if it's possible, you can tell them very directly also that, okay, this is to be completely abstained from, and it's not good for you in any way. It will spoil not just spiritual life that they are not exposed to. You can just tell them how it is going to affect their material life also, right? Because just like we spoke about this principle of determination, this determination gets broken completely, right? When they are engaged in these relationships, and specifically, like we said, their studies get affected and so on. So, anything like that?
I think Prabhuji just answered perfectly. So if you're going in a affected area, you have to be vaccinated, right? If you're going in a zone where it's filled with viruses, you have to get vaccinated first. So our daily morning vaccine is 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So I think you chant, and Krishna will internally inspire you to say the right things to the right people. Whosoever is genuinely looking for help, give them a book of Srila Prabhupada. I think that's the best way to start. If they're interested, you can call them to temple. If a lot of people are facing this problem, Prabhuji can come, I can come and give a session. So a lot of practical things you can do. Start with handing out a small book, maybe 10, 15, 20 rupees book, which will practically take them a day or two to read. So like that, you can, help them permanently, I would say. Their spiritual life starts when they come in touch with Srila Prabhupada's books.
So, if you practice very strongly yourself, then it is also important that we do not get disturbed by all of these things, because it does affect our consciousness also.
There is a book called Misdirected Love. There's a very nice book called, it's a very small book, this size, Misdirected Love. And someone can read that book practically in 1.5 hours, right? So next time when you come to temple, and it's just costing, I think, 10 rupees, if I'm not mistaken. So just buy some 10, 20 books for yourself. And whenever somebody like that comes to you, just hand the book to them. Simple.
Is that okay,
Yeah,
Mark?
thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, it's relevant. Thank you.
What is the name of that book?
Misdirected Love.
Misdirected Love.
Okay. Fine.
Can you please put it in the
Chat.
group
In the
later
chat
on?
book, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So this is the last para, which is very important. So we'll go through this. So Vigata Bhi, one cannot be fearless unless one is fully in Krishna consciousness. A conditioned soul is fearful due to his perverted memory, his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. The Bhagavatam says, Bhayam Dvitiya Bhiniveshata Shad, Ishad Apetesya Viparyayo Smritihi. Krishna consciousness is the only basis for fearlessness. Therefore, perfect practice is possible for a person who is Krishna conscious. And since the ultimate goal of yoga practice is to see the Lord within, a Krishna conscious person is already the best of all yogis. The principles of yoga system mentioned herein are different from those of the popular so-called yoga societies. So So if one is materially contaminated, one is fearful, right? And we are always having fears in our life. What will happen if this happened? What will happen if that happened? What will happen if this goes wrong and that goes wrong? What will happen if I'm practicing spiritual life, but then I fall away? I mean, get affected by so many things. So like Prabhupada says here, one cannot be fearless unless one is fully in Krishna consciousness. To put it another way, if one is Krishna conscious properly, then he'll become completely fearless. Okay. So, because then he has complete confidence in the Lord, and he knows that Krishna is going to protect me in all situations. Right. So that confidence only develop when one actually progresses on this path of Krishna consciousness. Then even in the most difficult of situations, in the most polluted of environments, he will be saved and he'll be fearless because he has complete faith in the Lord. And he knows that whatever is happening in his life is also because of the mercy of the Lord. Even if things are going, in not so desired fashion, he knows that whatever is happening is actually happening for my good. So, but then for that, one has to be very strongly fixed in practicing. Then he will have this fearlessness. And therefore this song, beautiful Vaishnav song is there. Bhajahure mana Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare Durlabha Manabha Janama Satsange Tarahore Bhava Sindhure. In the first stanza here it said, Bhajahure mana Shri Nandanandana. So mind, please worship Shri Nanda Nandana, which means the son of Nanda Maharaj. Abhaya Charanara Vindare, because his lotus feet can actually avoid Abhaya, which means fearlessness. So when one has actually developed love for the Lord and is engaged in worshipping the Lord, then a fearlessness in the heart will automatically be manifest. Otherwise, it is not possible that one can be fearless in this material world. Because even if he thinks that everything is going right and it's perfect and there is no problem, still all of a sudden from somewhere some problem will come up. Something that is completely not thought of. And that will create complete disturbance. And therefore, so one who is completely taken shelter in Krishna, then in the next verse also it's going to be explained that, or in this verse also it is explained that the mind is completely undisturbed, subdued mind, unagitated. So that unagitation and then subdued, that will come by practicing of Krishna consciousness. And then that will avoid fearlessness also.
Just some examples, I think, that come to mind. So there's this, I think I mentioned this before, but just a refresher. So there's this proper disciple, I'm forgetting his name. So he basically was in Germany, and he was preaching, and there was this boy who was coming to his classes. Can someone shut the door? Just shut the door. There's a boy who was coming to these classes, and so the boy's uncle was actually a don. It was a mafia. So this uncle, he got to know that this boy is now practicing Krishna consciousness and with devotees, and so this uncle, he wanted to kind of meet this devotee to tell him that leave the boy. So they had called him in a church, and before he could arrive, the devotee was there waiting, and the father of the church, he actually came to this devotee and told him, whatever he says, this guy, this mafia don says, just agree, right? You don't know who he is. So just agree, don't argue with him, don't say anything. If you piss him off, then you'll be in deep trouble. So the devotee was completely fearless. He said, Raki Krishna mare Krishna Raki. If Krishna wants to kill, who can save? And if Krishna wants to save, who can kill? Right? So this dawn, he came, and this boy was also there, and the devotee was also there. So this dawn, he said, you leave my nephew alone. So the devotee said, I'm not catching hold of him, right? He's interested, he's coming, right? I'm not forcing him to come. So he said, no, you tell him not to come. I said, I cannot say that. Right? I am trying to spread the message of God, of Krishna. And if he's interested, he is welcome to come. I'm not going to stop him. Like, you don't know who I am. Like, you may be anyone, but I'm not going to stop him if he is interested. Right? If he's not interested, he doesn't want to come, he can stop coming. Right? I am not forcing him to come. So he yelled and he kind of, said a few things and then he left. And this father of the church is like, what did you do? Right? You don't know, heavy consequences will come right now. So he turned to the father like, you worship Jesus, right? Right? You don't have faith in the Lord. So if the Lord wants, if he wants me to die like this at the hand of this man, I'm okay to die. Right? But I won't stop serving him. And this is part of my service. So what happened the minute this man, this Don, he had stepped out, he actually entered a car and there was a rival gang who had placed a bomb. He took off and boom. So Krishna protects in so many ways. And devotee, when he shows, Prahlad Maharaj, he was fearless. So Narasimhadev appeared just to fulfill the word of his devotee. Right? Narasimhadev quickly, immediately made himself present. He was there as Vishnu form in every atom, of course. But in the form of Narasimhadev, he appeared immediately as soon as Prahlad Maharaj with great confidence said, yes, he's there in this film. Immediately, that instant, Narasimhadev manifested there. And you were waiting. So, yeah, when you show confidence in Krishna, Krishna आपका confidence का लाज रखने के लिए वहाँ पे बहुत कुछ कर लेंगे. Our problem is we don't have confidence in the Lord.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so we discussed.
Huh?
Already quarter one.
You finish this now.
This one is this was. This is done. This is done.
Please stop.
Okay, so since it's already quarter to one, we'll stop. If there are any questions or comments, anything you would like to share, we could only do these two verses today, 13 and 14. It'll be very nice if you're in Mumbai and you could actually also come physically here to temple for the programs. So we are already having some devotees coming here. Any questions or comments, anyone? Any doubts? Yes. Who is Mahatma? So in the Bhagavad Gita, there is definition given. Mahatmanas Mampata Devim Prakriti Ashrita. So one who is Mahatma is one who has taken shelter of the Devi Prakriti, which means the internal potency of the Lord. So he is Mahatma. So just any politician will not qualify as a Mahatma unless he is actually taken complete shelter of the Lord. So he is a Mahatma, one who has actually taken shelter of the Lord.
Bhajanti Ananya Manaso, Datamam Shanti.
Yeah.
So one who single-pointedly worships Bhajanti Ananya Manaso. Ananya means Anya. There's nothing else but single-pointed focus on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who worships him like that, Natamam Shanti. He knows him perfectly and he is completely peaceful. So that's a Mahatma. And there are several other places also. Prabhupada touches upon the definition of Mahatma. But this is the core. One who worships Krishna with single-pointed focus and who's taking shelter of the internal potency. We've taken shelter of the external potency, Maya. Right? So we are under her, quote unquote care. But when you accept the shelter of the internal potency, which is actually Srimati Radharani manifestation bhakti of the Supreme Personality of God, then we are under the internal potency, under the care of internal potency. Then such a person who's taken shelter, complete shelter like that is not.
So if one is so-called Swami or so and so forth, but if he is engaged in sinful activities, not following the rules and regulations, or is engaged in politics, then such a person is not qualified as a Mahatma. So he has to have complete shelter, taken of the Lord. engage in pure spiritual activities. That is a Mahatma.
Other places already described how Mahatma is somebody who has complete control over his senses, who's already realized Brahman, right? All these definitions, I think we already read a few, and they're upcoming as well in the next chapter. We already read a few, I think, in the second and third chapter. So. Or fourth chapter. From there, I think we discussed.
Any other questions or comments? Charu Madhuri is saying, I think she liked the discussion today. You're from Mumbai?
No, Prabhuji. I'm in Australia.
Oh, you're from Australia. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining.
Actually, here,
Yes, Madhuri.
sorry. We have a ISKCON temple. It's around 60 kilometers from my city. And there was Shamanand Prabhu. He is a very strong ISKCON devotee. And he used to give Gita classes here. So I attended his Gita classes, I think, from 2018 to 2020. But now he moved from Newcastle. So thanks very much. I think now I'm used to have a Gita class every week. And when he is not here, I was really completely feeling like an orphan child. So thanks for this online class.
Thank you for joining from so far and showing such great interest in trying to learn and understand and practice. It's very wonderful.
Yes, actually, when first time I heard Gita, it was really difficult, a little bit difficult to understand lots of things. But now when actually I myself read at least one shlok every day. But now when I listen, it's really a completely different thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing and joining us. It's very wonderful and inspiring to see that you're reading one verse every day. I think that should be our goal. Yeah. Each one of us, we should all try and read one verse at least of the Gita every day. Try and read, meditate on it, and see how we can apply it in our life. And if we have questions, we can always bring that up during the discussions.
Yeah. Actually, I used to do one round and one shlok. That's my rule for every day.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other points, questions? Sorry for the inconvenience of no air conditioning today. It's very hot.
We'll do a quick kirtan.
Yeah. We'll do a quick kirtan and then we'll take prasad. Those who are online can take prasad at your places. If you're in Mumbai, please join us.
Kirtan? You want to lead kirtan?
Yes, please lead.
Please. Simple property in Hare Krishna Mahamudra. You want to play kirtan?
Start.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for leading the Kirtan. Now the essay is done. Two people. Hare Krishna, thank you for joining. So we might be changing the timings of our classes. We might shift it to Sunday. Whatever the updates are, we will send it in the groups. So you can please accordingly join. If you are in Mumbai, we would request strongly to please come and come to temple when we are having the program. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
What is preferred, morning or evening?
Morning.
Sunday morning.
Online, एक मिनट, online is पूछो.
चलेगा.
Morning is preferred or evening? Whoever is there.
Sunday morning. Sunday morning.
I'm here, Prabhuji.
Very fluent.
Huh? Sorry. Bal Mukunda Prabhu, Charu Mataji.
What is morning? What is the time there in Australia and UK?
Right now it is 5:30 p.m.
5:30 p.m.
Oh.
Yeah.
Evening, then it will be midnight almost.
10:30.
10:30.
Evening will be 10:30. We'll start at 10:30 and finish by 12 for her.
That will be difficult for me.
Yeah. So morning time is preferred for you. For India morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Indian morning time is better for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Bal Mukunda Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.